Hi, I'm Jan Riley, and I'm here today as part of World Love Week. World Love Week is just an incredible event that talks about love, business, and making the world a better place. I'm here with Edie Weinstein, and she is just an amazing person. You have so much going on. You have been a licensed social worker, you're a prolific author, interviewer, speaker. You have helped so many people in a variety of ways. I am just feel really privileged to be here because you are so prolific in your ability to touch other people. And I also really love your writing. It's so real and personal and fun and interesting. And you touch on some really deep subjects. So I think it says a lot that you're able to tackle those and put them out in a way that is really a pleasure to read.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So tell me, what are you working on these days that really brings some joy into your life?
Well, I'm working on healing myself. Back in June of last year, 2014, at 55 years old, on the way home from the gym, I had a heart attack, something I never would have expected. And it turned my world upside down in positive ways, not just what you might perceive as negative ways. And as a result of that, and I was telling you before we started speaking here, that in the middle of the night, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you know how when you're in the hospital and they come in to take your vital signs, I was in conversation with one of the nurses. And she said, and I told her what I did professionally. She said, when you recover, what you really need to do is go out there and do education for women in particular about cardiac care and wellness. So I, promised this nurse and myself that I would do that. But the first thing I had to do was take care of me. I had to make sure that I was taking care of myself. So I'm in recovery now. I consider myself a recovering workaholic. That for me, workaholism and work in general was just as much an addiction as other substances are for other people. So work and love are intertwined in my life.
Wow.
That's how I got not only an income, but validation, affirmation was being, having a good work ethic.
Yes.
So I'm working on healing me, partly so I can stick around a little longer, a lot longer, hopefully, but also so I can help other people heal those wounds and those beliefs that they have within themselves.
Well, I think that is a really powerful statement that she gave you, that you had the ability through your own experience to help other people.
Right.
And I know you've always been really passionate about helping people on their inward journey. So how has that been different, sort of tackling some of the physical, especially the heart?
Well, I had always been physically active. I grew up in a family where fitness, exercise was a big part of our lives. I was a competitive swimmer from the time I was 11 till I was 18, and I coached for 3 summers after that. My father worked out on a daily basis. He, even in his retirement, worked in a gym. In her retirement, my mother taught senior stretch class and water aerobics. So activity was always a big part of our lives. So that's another reason why it came as such a surprise that my heart gave out, at least temporarily.
Right.
And what the doctors told me, which I really appreciated hearing, was that because I had been so active, there was no residual damage to my heart. I have a stent, and it keeps the artery propped open. So externally, I go to cardiac rehab between 3 and 5 times a week. I walk, sort of not always on a daily basis, but at least every other day. I've changed my diet considerably. I was mostly vegetarian before, but a lot of the prepackaged, veggie burgers, really high in sodium and cholesterol, gone, completely gone.
Oh.
And so I'm eating a lot of organic food now, a lot of whole grains. I'm not allowed to have black tea or green tea anymore because of cardiac stimulants, but I've changed that nutritionally. In terms of the biggest change, again, some of it's been external, but the biggest change has been internal because I'm sleeping. Before the heart attack, when this is huge,
wow.
working at least 12 hours a day at my full-time job as an outpatient drug and alcohol counselor,
Right.
sleeping maybe 5 or 6 hours a night, and ignoring the symptoms, which were lightheadedness, dizziness, palpitations, blood pressure fluctuations that I attributed to menopause. And some of the people who are viewing this, maybe menopausal women, don't ignore those symptoms.
Yeah.
Get them checked out. So that's the biggest. I take naps now. I was afraid that if I took naps, I'd miss something. So I take good care of my own heart. Again, partly so I can help other people take care of their emotional, not just biological, but emotional hearts.
I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it's one of the things I've noticed, and I've talked with many other people that I've interviewed about the idea of self-care and how important that is when you're an entrepreneur, because it's so easy to get trapped in the do more, do more, do more idea of success, and not really be able to follow through with so many of the things that you actually envision, that big desire, because the self-care isn't there.
Right.
And without that level of true commitment to taking care of yourself, it's really hard to sustain a big movement.
Right. And sometimes for people who are, and I call it being a conscious entrepreneur, because a lot of people go through business unconsciously. And I can tell you that I did that for 10 years. When I was a magazine publisher from 88 to 98, I sleepwalked through it. I didn't know the things that I know now. I was younger, obviously, a lot younger. And I didn't have the experience and the skills that I do now. I am a conscious, awake, aware entrepreneur now, and I take inspired action. I have a good work ethic, but prior to the heart attack, I literally worked myself into a frenzy, into the heart attack, because I was so afraid I couldn't support myself. All evidence to the contrary.
Yes.
So things that
Isn't that funny?
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I encourage people to do if they're thinking about launching their own business is to realize, and again, I don't tell anybody what to believe spiritually, but I started using this mantra that I don't know if I ever heard anybody else use it, but I use it for myself. And I say, I work for God, and the salary and benefits are out of this world. And when I started doing that, I started relaxing. I started realizing that everything falls into place. The right people come into my life, the right opportunities, the experiences that I desire showed up. 2 weeks prior to the heart attack, I was offered a full-time salary and benefits job, working from home, writing. And that's what I do. I work for Elements Behavioral Health, which uses my therapeutic, I've been a therapist for 30 years. It uses my therapeutic abilities to write articles about addiction, recovery, and mental health issues. And part of it is about my own recovery. So again, 2 weeks before the heart attack, the universe arranged for me to get this job. I take time to rest. As I said, I take naps now. I have time to go to cardiac rehab. I fulfill my requirements for that job and other work. I have a radio show. It's called It's All About Relationships. And business is about relationships.
Yes.
You've heard the saying, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. So anytime anyone is in it, wants to start their own business or sustain their own business, it's not about what you can get from your customer, your client, the consumer. It's about how you can connect with that person's needs and how you can help them get what they want in their lives.
And haven't you seen a huge shift in business these days? Because even corporations are finding that the more they focus on the health and well-being of their customer base, that shows up. I mean, it's not just Apple.
Right.
It's a whole bunch of other big companies. They're starting to see that in today's economy, especially, where you can find and search for the next solution or price or whatever it is in nanoseconds. The way to distinguish yourself out in the world often has to do with how much people relate to you,
Right.
and relate to your business and relate to your business values.
I was just going to use that word. You sucked it right out of my brain. That businesses have to be value oriented. I will do business with people that share my values. Environmentally conscious businesses, eco-friendly businesses, people that take care of not only their customer base, but their employees. When you have people working for you, they're the ones that keep the business going. It's not just the head honcho at the top. It's
Right.
people that value their employees. Now, right now, and that's whether you're solo, or whether you have folks working for you. If I don't value me as my only employee, I'm going to go on strike. And that's what happened.
One way or the other, stuff falls through.
Oh yeah, that's what my heart went on strike because I wasn't valuing this employee, and I was in fear. So sure, when you go into business for yourself, you may be anxious or nervous, like, oh God, is this gonna, what is it I heard recently that a lot of businesses go out of business within 18 months.
Right.
For whatever reason. I don't know where that number came from, but for whatever reason. And it's not just having a formal business plan and a vision statement and a mission statement and all the detail stuff. It's about how you live your business every day.
Right.
Some people say that when they work from home, they get lazy. For me, it's the other way around.
Oh.
As I'm slowing down, I'm getting more accomplished. Life is, as I'm slowing down enough, life, work, whatever catches up to me, and I don't have to zoom around to get things done. And I encourage.
Right. And when you work at home, and when you work from home, you can always work.
Yeah.
It's been the hardest thing to find times when it actually turns it off. And I've worked out of my home or roughly, I've always been self-employed for 40 years, and there's always more to do. I mean, that's life. There's always stuff to do. So setting some boundaries, and also, I guess I'm hearing you say, making a commitment. So we make a commitment to our business, to making a profit, to doing products, to doing whatever. But what I'm hearing you say is that you have to make a commitment to caring for yourself.
Right.
Because when you do that, and my belief is, you are then in a position, both mentally and physically, to care about the people you're working with.
Oh, absolutely. And you have more to give. You can't give from an empty cup. And when I take time to restore and rejuvenate, then I have more energy to give to the people who call on me to do therapy or coaching or speaking or writing. And it's much more fulfilling for me. I enjoy, not that I didn't enjoy my work before, what I'm doing now is nourishing. That's the other thing. If you're doing work that drains you, that sucks the life out of you, you probably would benefit from taking a look at whether you want to stay in that position or whether you want to do something else. Because for years, that's what I did. And again, the mental health field, I won't say encourages it, but yeah, maybe it does. When I teach classes for social workers, and I teach continuing ed classes for social workers, often they'll tell me, very few of them have exquisite self-care skill sets. We're taught to sacrifice, and I'm sure there are other fields in which that's the case as well.
I think all businesses, really, honestly, America is built on people being codependent towards something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It really is, because we reward people that do that in a cultural way, ironically not in a financial way.
Right.
Now, if you look at the businesses where people are making lots and lots of money, they take Wednesdays off.
Right.
They have staff, so it's see what people are doing, not what they're saying. And I agree. Anyone in the teaching fields, the social care, mental health, any of those things where it's really, it isn't just about showing up. You have to put some energy into that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a really high energy X. You may be sitting there, but there's a lot of energy that it takes to be present and to do those jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
Makes it even more important.
Oh, absolutely. And what I say is that if you're in any business, you got to put your heart and soul into it, or don't do it. Yeah. And it doesn't mean doing what I did, working crazy hours, not sleeping. Because I work from home and because a lot of my work is on the computer, I can do it at 2 o'clock in the morning if I can't sleep, and then I can sleep until 10 o'clock.
Right.
I mean, I could, but I don't. You know, the opportunity is there.
Keep
But
working on that.
yeah, I need to do that. But you know, if you have a portable business like I do, like I'm blessed to do now, I can work whenever the muse calls. Fortunately or unfortunately, she speaks to me 24/7, even in my dreams, even in my sleep. You know, oh, you should write about this, or how about that? You know,
uh,
that you
yeah.
know how that works.
And one thing I wanted to ask you about is that for that 10 years you published a magazine and you interviewed, I mean, uh, what, dozens, hundreds of people.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. When you consider that there were 12 issues a year times 10 years, I probably didn't do maybe 5 of them over that time, but I did the rest of them.
And then since then, you've continued that reaching out and talking to other people. I wanted to ask you, what have you seen? What have you seen start to change and evolve in terms of people's ideas about what business is, and especially businesses that are heart driven or who basically have the underlying feeling of, I want to better the world? That used to kind of be an off thing. If there was a business that wanted to make the world better, that was considered unusual. Now I'm finding it's actually becoming more common. So have you seen that, and how do you see that having shifted?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. Back then, it would have been crunchy granola, airy fairy, cosmic food kind of stuff, and now people are finding that people before profits brings profits. It used to be profits had to come first, but if you put the people that work for you, that work with you, that again, as I mentioned, it is all about relationships. If businesses put people first, then they're going to see their financial coffers fill up. They're also learning that if you follow your passion, if you do what you love to do, some people's businesses started out as hobbies.
Right.
Look what they grew into. I have a friend that has a hugely successful greeting card company, Kathy Davis Designs. She just celebrated her 25th anniversary of being in business, and I used to be a text writer for her when she had a freelance component of her business. And she started out in the corner of her bedroom doing calligraphy. And there are plenty of people who started, like Ben and Jerry. You look at them; they wanted to have a bagel business at one point, and then they decided on ice cream because they liked ice cream, and
in Vermont.
And in Vermont, yes. Interviewed them. They were on the cover of our magazine, lying in a pile of stuffed cows, little stuffed animal cows, and they've grown into something amazing. And you look at everybody who loves what they do, who's successful at what they do, started out being passionate about something. I'm passionate about communicating, and that's why I love writing and speaking. The other piece of it, and this is something that those of us that are in the touchy-feely kind of, the high touch, low tech fields, spiritual fields, healing fields, have a hard time with, is asking for what our services are worth without stuttering. I had a coach that told me that years ago. He said, you're going to ask for what you want without stuttering. And I started doing that, and I've been receiving it. We're told, oh yeah, you do healing work, you shouldn't get paid. Nonsense. The utility company expects me to pay the same thing that they expect a mechanic or a doctor or somebody that owns a supermarket to pay. There's nothing unspiritual about getting paid what our services are worth. Now, I'm not talking about exorbitant amounts of money that people can't afford because I can charge for it. But it's a fair...
It doesn't matter, does it? It doesn't matter whether they're asking for $10 or $1 million. You still stutter if you stutter.
Right. But it's also about saying I look at it as a fair exchange for services, for people offering, if I'm offering my service, I think about just as an example, if I have to drive somewhere, I have to figure that in. And my best friend is an accountant, so she reminds me of that. Don't just charge for the time that you're there. You got to drive there. You got to pay for your transportation. They're not just paying, and this is something for other teachers, healers, whatever, presenters to know. People are not just paying for you to show up. They're paying for all of your years of study, of training, of expertise, of all the life lessons that you've learned. So you're worth way more than however many bucks an hour to show up and speak. And
Well,
doing that.
and it's really interesting because I've heard it said you should be getting paid the most for what's the easiest for you to do.
I like that idea.
And the thing I have found, being an artist and a creative type, is that I always had the exact opposite in my mind, because I'd always been told, well, you're creative. So that's like a dime a dozen or less, than a dime.
Right.
And I started to understand that the way we value ourselves shows up in a couple of places almost immediately. You can see it with other people real easily. So it shows up in one, how much we're willing to charge, if we're willing to charge. And two, it shows up as to how much we think our life is worth. Mm-hmm. And that's we're back to this idea of self-care. Mm-hmm. That is a commitment to what you're worth. Mm-hmm. And also, this was interesting. If I said, how much is my message worth? How much is my passion or the energy behind my passion worth? Then all of a sudden it takes on a much greater worth. It's why often it's much easier to raise money for a cause than to raise our prices. Mm-hmm. Because we can attach a worth to it that seems equivalent. And mostly I've noticed a lot of entrepreneurs are now out there combining those two elements. Instead of it just being a nonprofit business, it is a profit-driven business with a philanthropic undercurrent. Mm-hmm. And the best thing I see about this particular movement is I think a lot more ideas are going to be out there in the world now. Because nothing kills a good idea worse than one person having to raise money for it for 10 years. Right. We've all been there, right? Okay. And I tell people all the time, if your nonprofit can't make a profit, so to speak, it won't be around to help people. Right. And I love this energy around so many people going into entrepreneurialism because they want to change the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I agree with that completely, because the more money I make, the more I can give back. Since I've started changing my attitude, when the money shows up, certainly I pay my bills and I get to play a little bit, but I'm still, I still am a little afraid of, okay, can I go on vacation? Can I take time off? But I've been able to donate more because I'm making more. I had this social worker's mentality. I've been a social worker since 1985, and I have this social worker's mentality that, oh, I'll sacrifice, oh, I can do whatever it takes to take care of somebody else. I have a friend that uses the term, my degree is an MSW, Master of Social Work, and she calls it Master of Saving the World. Now, that I don't have to do that. And since the heart attack, I say that I've gone from being Wonder Woman, who thought that I had to save the world single-handedly, to being the bionic woman because I have this artificial body part. And it's the same thing in business. That I don't think one person can save the world single-handedly, but one person can do her part or his part. And together, we can make the world a different place, because there is no society out there. There is no machine out there that mucks things up. We are society. We are, I'm going to break out in the song, We Are the World, Yeah. And as conscious entrepreneurs, we're putting our work out there in the world. We're serving the world. The other term that I use, that my friend Ruth Ann Wood, who was on another seminar series that we did use, is thriving artist. So many of us call ourselves starving artists. And I gag when I hear that. Yeah. Because there's nothing noble about being a starving artist or starving writer or starving anything.
Yeah, we don't think it's noble to be a starving dentist.
Right. And
or a starving mechanic.
Right. So I call myself a thriving artist, and I encourage my artist friends, whether your art is dancing, writing, painting, speaking, you thrive. I love the word thriving because it reminds me of wildflowers, beautiful, colorful flowers. So we are all thriving when we choose to do that. And that does make a difference in the world. So I'm excited about all the possibilities of reaching people and inspiring them to do the same thing in whatever way they're passionate about.
And what do you think it means? Because I love what you just said. That's absolutely true. So many of us just define where we are on the success spectrum based on basically kind of arbitrary things.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, we almost never become really successful because we either have the money and not the health, and, or the time and not the money. I mean, there's all these different elements. And what I'm seeing is the people that feel the most successful,
Mm-hmm.
they look at all of that.
Right.
But it always starts with, is this really authentic to me? And am I really doing something that feels like it contributes to the world, that matters to me? So what do you think it means to have a business that you love?
Well, it's like taking care of a child or an animal, a beloved animal, that if you don't nurture it and nourish it, it's going to starve. If you don't take care of a child, they're going to be neglected. So if you can look at your business as your baby, whether your business is your book, your speaking, your teaching, your healing, your coaching, anything that you do, if you take care of that business like it's your baby, then you're going to want it to grow. You're going to want to love it. It's not going to, sometimes, yeah, being a parent, I'm a parent of a 27-year-old now, and parenting takes work, and it takes an investment. And the thing with an investment in your business is also an investment in yourself. And back in, when I had the magazine, I wasn't invested in myself. I was just getting by.
Right.
And I didn't have the awareness and the mindset that I do now. So I look at my business, again, not from a facts and figures, how much am I bringing in attitude, but how much joy can I have today? How much fun can I have doing this today? How many people can I reach out to? How can I take the message that the muse, who's my constant companion, my lover, my whatever you want to call it, that's insatiable, that says, okay, go write this today. How much fun can I have with that?
Right.
And if you can generate that kind of enthusiasm for your business, no matter what it is, you're going to want to get up every day and do it.
Yeah. Oh, that is so true. And then that is really what attracts the right clients and really touches and sparks them, because then making the money is not hard.
No.
People want to work with you.
Oh, absolutely. And fear's going to come up. There are times when I have what I call imposter syndrome, where I think, oh God, what if they find out that I'm really not that confident? What if they find out that I have the same fears and gremlins that they do? Are they going to want to work with me? And the truth is, the more authentic we are, the more people will see, oh, she's just like me, or he's just like me. What works for them? What works for that person? My son used to say a couple years ago, he said, Mom, how can you teach and write about things that you don't have nailed down in your life? And I said, honey, if authors and speakers and therapists waited till everything was perfectly the way they wanted it to be, there'd be no books.
Yes.
No presentations, there'd be no therapists. I said,
Yeah.
we're all works in progress, but that's the other thing, is that if you're doing work with people, I think, and this is a judgment, but I think it's important to do your own work. That if you're coaching and teaching and therapizing, you got to look at the man or woman in the mirror and say, okay, am I practicing what I preach? And yeah, there are times that I am, and there are times that I'm not, and life calls me on it. Whether it's my
Right.
son, my friends, he's my biggest mirror, my biggest teacher. When he was 14, he says, Mom, I'm an undercover angel sent to teach you patience. And I was a lifelong learner, and he still teaches at 27. So it helps to have naysayers in our lives, people that support you, because a lot of times people go into business and have someone tell them, oh no, you're never going to be able to, and you're going to fail. I have no naysayers in my life. I have people that say, okay, are you sure you thought this through? How do you want to do this? But nobody has said you can't. Even my parents, they said, as long as you can support yourself, we support you in doing what you want to do. And
Right.
To the day they died, they encouraged. Now they thought what I did was a little crazy, a little left of center, a little, the Yiddish term meshugana.
Yeah.
Uh, but from the other side, they're still my most ardent cheerleaders.
Yep.
They guide me. They say, okay, go do this, doll baby. You can do this. My father used to call me doll baby. My mother used to call me baby cakes. So it depends on who's talking.
Yep. Exactly. Well, I'm really glad you said that because, we all have our feelings, but making that commitment to having a business and sharing a spirit and really connecting and helping other people, that's something that I'm so glad to see people doing. And, I'm really excited about talking to you because you've had decades of experience with this. I mean, you were doing this before it was cool.
Right. Yeah.
And you've made it work and really touched so many people as a result. And I'm also really glad that you did, not glad that you had a heart attack, but really glad that you were able to stop and say, hey, wait, there's something else.
Right.
And now I'm going to make sure that I take care of me because we need you here for a while.
Thank you.
We want you to be here for a long, long time, helping, challenging, and encouraging people. And so tell me, how can people find out more about you?
Sure. A couple of ways. First, I'm very active on Facebook. My son calls me a Facebook addict, but I'm there a lot for the networking. So it's Edie Weinstein. That's EDIEWEINSTEIN. I also have a Bliss Mistress page, and I also have an Optimistic, OPTI-MYSTIC. And an optimistic is someone who sees the world through the eyes of possibility. And I encourage everybody to do that. I also have a website, www.liveinjoy.org. And then finally, my radio show is on vividlife.me, VIVID life.me. And it's all about relationships every Thursday night from 8 to 8:30 Eastern Standard Time.
All right.
Tell people listen in and share the love.
That's it. Come on. Well, Edie, thank you so much for joining me. This has been great. And I want to encourage everyone to stick around because we have so many incredible speakers for World Love Week. A lot of people are in business and need the support and guidance to keep that strength and that center of love so that, one, you end up being a better person, and two, you end up serving the right people so they also benefit from your business and your message. Thanks so much. I encourage everybody to keep listening to World Love Week and all of our speakers. And I'm Jan Riley. Thank you, Edie Weinstein, for joining us. This has been a delight.
Thank you. My pleasure.